Good morning, everyone. Aloha, and welcome to another exciting episode. We've got a lot of AI news for you today. Google has their Google I/O going on, as well as we will cover a little bit about new 19 ribosomes going on in AI in science. So, before we get started, I want to introduce you to Andy, Danielle, and Brian, who's joining me, Junmi. And today is May 20th, 2026, episode 728. And this is the Daily AI Show. So, how's everybody doing? Did you survive Google I/O? You were able to take a breath from the deluge, if you will, of information. And then, of course, wasn't also Anthropic and OpenAI also trying to release things to kind of take some wind out of the sails, so to speak?
I missed probably some of that, to be honest with you. In terms of IO, I forgot about it. Then I caught it. I happened to be watching YouTube because it was lunch. So now I was like, oh, this is happening. So I caught it a little bit into it. I actually around and ended up watching probably the first hour of it or so. So I didn't miss a ton of it from watching it live. And then today, the nice thing is you don't really have to catch it live because Google themselves makes wrap-up videos, everything you need to know in 15 minutes. Then you have all your TikTok and YouTube short creators and everybody else and people like us who make shows about it. So there's a lot of different ways to consume it because like to try to do it all through the live IO is a lot. And then there's also like, what does this mean? Like there's the first hit you wave. Then there's the sort of picking through it. And that's something we can do today on the show and just like talk about, well, what does that mean? And who gets that? And when do they get that? And how does that affect me? Or how does that affect my work? Danielle, I know you were saying before we live, there's certain things that you thought were directly going to be impactful to what you do, right? Versus other stuff. You'd be like, I don't know, sounds cool. I will tell you my overall impression was exactly what, Andy, we were talking about yesterday and the day before with Beth, when we were just having conversations about this. And Gareth was here as well, which is that Google has the system. And they are fully showing you the power of when you own the system, when you own across multi different areas, how when you deploy something like we'll talk about their new model 3.5 Flash and also 3.5 Thinking, which they didn't talk about, but that is out. You can use it if you have a pro model, is just how far and deep these tentacles go into everyday products that people are using. And it just, to me, like the takeaway really was, we've already sort of seen this, but people are really going to stop saying AI in a lot of ways in day-to-day work, because it's just going to be how you use YouTube. It's just going to be how you use your Gmail. It's going to be how you use Google Drive. It won't be, I deployed AI. And what I really took away from Google and everybody that was talking yesterday is that's exactly right. They don't want you to think about AI mode anymore for search. They want you to just think about Google search, because Google search is AI search. That's it. And that's right. Like why confuse people with what's behind under the hood, so to speak? Like at a certain point, you just want to know that your Google search now works better than you ever expected it and can do really amazing things. And some of that I've already been able to demo this morning and can share with you guys about just different ways that it's useful. And their big takeaway, at least my takeaway from it, and what I felt like they're pushing is AI doesn't mean less search, it means more. So, 2 years ago when we're talking about is Google going to bite their own hand when it comes to advertising? I think this is a clear signal from them, from my perspective, that's absolutely backwards, that they feel like with all this integration of AI to what we will now just in the future call Google search, I'm Googling something, you won't think about it being AI-ified, that actually makes people more curious, makes them want to dive deeper, ask follow-up questions. And that may in turn still allow advertisers to actually get more touch points with the audience, not less. Will that happen? I'm not sure, but that's sort of my big overall takeaway, is that Google is showing what happens when you already own and built the infrastructure over decades, how quickly you can move to deploy AI into all those different areas.
I think that's a good overview of what they're I guess their overall theme or pitch was for IO 2026. But let's go ahead and take let's go around the horn here and talk about uh, any particular thing that stood out for you and how it's going to apply to everyday use. And
I want to focus on the models. There were 2 models released yesterday. And it ties in with what Brian was just saying, which is if you have this enormous surface that Google has to apply AI to, how would you structure your frontier model development plan? And what was revealed yesterday is that they have 2 different frontier capable models. They have 3.5 Flash, which is like applied across the universe of Google as the frontier level model, tuned specifically for agentic applications and for coding. And so that's the power behind all of the services that you're going to see. And at the same time, they released Omni, which is a showcase demo quality high-end reasoner that is really at the frontier as well. And the big difference between the 2 of them is that 3.5 Flash is faster. It does 4 times the output tokens per second as other frontier models do, and that's across the competitive landscape. But then if you compare it just to Omni, Omni is going to be something that maximizes capability for really rich multimodal applications and experiences. So think of that as if you're going to develop a live application, which is going to want really fast reasoning and low latency interaction at the same time, Omni is probably going to be your showcase model for that. Whereas if you really want to instrument something for enterprise or use your own set of tools within the Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, all those things, search, YouTube, etc. 3.5 Flash is also at the frontier, right? But it's really been tuned for speed and cost.
I'll add to that before we move off of, because I know we want to go around the horn, but just so that we're staying on the models. One, I do want to add that again, there is also 3.5 thinking. I don't know who and when and everybody. In fact, I never heard them mentioned about it, but I do have 3.5 thinking with my scaled Gemini account, and it is also very, very fast, but it's slower on purpose, right? I mean, we know the thinking models are slower. One thing I want to point out is that we need a better, you said 4 times. I will tell you that 3.5 Flash feels like, I was saying this in Slack, and Gareth and I were talking back and forth a little bit yesterday, feels so fast it feels broken. It feels broken. I mean, it feels like, nope, that couldn't have worked.
You didn't even think about your response.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, could you at least give it some effort? Now, Gareth rightfully pointed out, and I ran into this a little bit too, where we were running into some accuracy issues. Also, though, the model was being hit hard yesterday, and you could tell with that because some answers were just broken when you got them. And I thought, all right, you got to give a pause there because literally everybody who cares about this stuff was running to go hit it. The other thing I want to bring up is the cost. Because here's a way to think about this. If you're going to, across the world, for anybody that I guess can have access to it, say search and everything in Gemini, everything now uses 3.5 Flash. I'll show you a demo like here in search in a second that also uses Omni as part of it. Think about what the cost must be for Google if they're able to do that for free for everyone. You're talking about billions upon billions of search criteria, which will only go up. I mean, they certainly have said that. And to think what the model is behind that, where the cost must lie. Because they didn't just like say some people get better search. They said everybody gets better search. And there's certain levels there, of course. They didn't just say some people will get 3.5 Flash. They said everybody using Gemini will get 3.5 Flash. And again, you might have limitations on how much you can use it. I just think it points to what that cost level must be. And it'll be really interesting when the API, because Gareth was saying that too, like what are the API costs? But my initial impressions of it, withstanding some of the errors and faults it was having yesterday, is the latency is bonkers low. and the cost is bonkers low for what you're getting as a frontier model.
Right. I would want to clarify the idea of free though, because they are getting the data, right? You're using it, what your queries are. It's the same thing as search, right?
Sure.
Every time you put in something, they're getting some data out of that. So I'm always worried about that word free. There is an exchange, but you're completely
Sure.
right. What you get out of it is probably worth what you're putting into it, right?
Right. And you're right. I should have clarified that they're not charging you any sort of subscription to have a smarter search. Right. So, but you're right. It's not free because their whole point is they think this will get it in front of more advertisements, which will cover any cost at Google plus, right? Google intends to continue to make a lot of money on advertisers and their ad placements within it. And it'll just be interesting to see how that's all layered in. But if search is so easy, I guess is the word I would want. If it's so intuitive to answering the questions that you want in a really natural way, I absolutely agree that it will increase search, which only allows Google to be able to put more ads, sponsored posts and whatever in front of me as part of that. I don't know that we're seeing that today, by the way, but I definitely think that will be all ironed out in the future as more and more people use it and they get that data. But good call out, Jimmy. I mean, it's not, you're right. There's a trade-off. Facebook isn't free either, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I want to pause real quick and thank Big Sauce. Thank you. Thank you for your
thank you.
Your amount there. That's super helpful and super appreciated.
Yes.
And the last thing I'll say about Omni and the models is I like the direction when they're talking about world models, because that seems to be where a lot of focus is. And, this comes in with Genie and these other world models that people seem to be building or focusing on. For me, it's probably a different application than others are focusing on. But the idea that we're starting to use video language models or video and the world and its physics and all those kinds of things is going to be helpful in filmmaking, virtual worlds and those kinds of things. Okay. Does anybody else have anything on models, or are we ready to move on to the next great Google release?
I mean, it's not a model, right? But I think the next obvious part of this, when we kind of dipped into search as part of what those models potentially could do. But I think Spark is probably another great area. It's not necessarily another model, but I think it's going to their personal AI agent, their answer to OpenClaw, if you will, and some other things. I think it's going to be really interesting. And there was one line that got a lot of laughs and claps in the presentation. And it was, and yes, this will work when your laptop is closed too.
Oh.
Like, that's a shot, man. That's a shot, because the people who know. Yeah. And so I think now this is one where not everybody's going to have access to it, and you might need to be on that $100 subscription plan that they were talking about. But their point is really simple. $100 to have an AI personal assistant is chump change over a month. And they might be right about that. There might be a lot of people who decide that for what it does for them in the future, not today, but through the summer, through the fall, into next year, what they're able to do with Gemini Spark, how they're able to set up automated actions. I am a person who uses Google Drive, Google Gmail for my personal life. I also use it for my work life. We also use it for the show. So it's fair to say that I am a Google Shop guy, just by the nature of the way things are. I'm not in 365 or in other areas. So I think Google Spark has got a lot of people excited. We'll have to see, because sometimes this stuff can feel a little bit more hype-ish, and it falls flat, like Siri announcements, to name one, and what it can do, because that was the idea that Siri might be your personal assistant, and Apple obviously hasn't made it there. But Spark is interesting to me. I don't know what you guys think about it, but I like the idea of it. I'm really, really interested to start using it, once it gets to a subscription level that it's accessible to me. Because right now it's on the ultras and stuff. And those are, I think, $250, but they're coming down to $200, and then they brought in a $100 level, which obviously competes directly with what OpenAI and Anthropic had.
Yeah, it's just they're going to use the high end subscriptions to kind of knock the rough edges off of that product before they release it to everybody else. And yeah, this is it's another alternative to the still in the in the on deck circle for me, creating a personal agent that can work on an ongoing basis to handle a range of tasks that are important to me. And the demos of Spark, as I understand them, I didn't watch them myself, is orchestrating your calendar, email invites, logistics for a community event. All your existing workspace data is used in the process of that agent pulling it together. And this is a cloud-based agent for you. Mm-hmm. So that's how it achieves when your laptop's closed, it's still working for you. And I think most of us trust the Google Cloud pretty well, right? We're already committing, I'm personally committing every single password I have to a Google Sheet, right? So that's how much I trust Google's, protections and privacy. And I would do the same, with Spark as my personal agent.
Yeah, I agree. I'm always lean towards open source for those kinds of things. I'm probably a little more data sovereignty focused than the average person, but the integration level, and that's the big thing Google always has, right? Like you said, you were Brian. You said you were a Google shop, right?
Yeah,
it's because they offer so many features and they have so many different products, and they all integrate well, and that's going to be their big strong point there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even mention Google Calendars, YouTube, and Google Photos, right? Just add those into the mix. Now start thinking about Spark, and I don't know where it'll come out. Again, we'll have to see how it'll get smarter over time. But if Google Spark, with my permission, obviously, has access to Calendar, Gmail, Photos, which are also video. What am I missing? Google Drive for documents and all that kind of stuff. And it can intuitively make sense of that and come up with real use cases that are valuable to me. I'll give you one that my family does all the time. Beyond budget, we do just a simple calendar. And I mean, it's simple. We literally print out a Google Doc piece of paper. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. But we just find in my family, just with even the three of us, there's enough going on, my daughter, my wife, and I, that having a calendar on the fridge is really helpful. It's not digital. It's literally a piece of paper. It suits our needs, right? But you can, that takes actually time to do. So if in the future, I can have Google Spark say, just go ahead and update for that for me and get it ready to print, that would be amazing, because we're manually pulling from my wife's calendar, my calendar, what's going on with my daughter's school, when finals are going on right now with her school as she wraps up freshman year. And so there's just a lot going on in May, graduations for nephews, travel plans, blah, 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 the whole thing. So I see a future here where not only is it able to do that, but even after it does that, it proactively, wouldn't it be fun for me to say, hey, Google Spark, like, you saw what was on my calendar. Now go find the accompanying images that I took through the travels, through the things or whatever, and bring that together to me in some way that's fun for my family to review about what was going on, And so there's like these integrations, I think, that people probably aren't thinking about because they don't have it right now, that I'll be really interested to see how people go, hey, this is how I use this in my day-to-day life. And it's actually really, really valuable to me.
Right.
And again, not really thinking about it as AI. It's just this is what Google does,
Well, this actually gets me thinking. Danielle, is Easiest Pie a Google house? And how does the Google announcements affect you guys?
Yeah, not only are we a Google house, when clients want to come to us and they want us to integrate with their Microsoft products, we charge them more than we charge people that are using Google, because I don't even want to fucking deal with it. Like, I don't even like to deal with it. And I'm next door to Microsoft here in the burbs of Seattle, right? So I'm right next door to it, and that's where all my frenzies work. So we are definitely a Google house, and we live, breathe, and die by the Google. So exactly what Brian's saying is the Spark. I'm very excited about that. And I do, I was excited about the IO. Just a quick call out. One of my partners, business partners, Vanessa, was at the launch. She was there yesterday live. And so it was so fun to have text messages from her, just like screen capturing, saying like, I talked to this person, I talked to that person. So I'm hoping to have a lot of gossip soon for all the tubes and LinkedIn's and all the things.
So you had personal or personalized live
I got behind the scenes text messages yesterday all day, backs of heads everywhere, like that's so and so back of a head, that's so and so back of head. So that was very exciting. But yeah, as a Google house, I've always been a big fan of Google because they own so much of the space, but also because the costs are so much lower than the Microsoft platform, and things seem to get done faster, and I can figure things out. Maybe it's just the way my brain works. I can figure things out easier. Like there seems to be a way for me to figure things out. And I used to be a hardcore Microsoft person until I moved over. I think once 360 happened, that's when I was like, nope, I'm done. Like I have to switch over. I think it was the second that 360 happened is when I was like, nope, I'm done. And I'm not saying I don't have actually boxes with like X on it or Windows 2000 or, whatever on there. Miss me some 98. When it comes to the Google yesterday, for me, the most exciting thing was the Google Pics customization. And it seems like such a small thing, but as somebody who needs to create marketing materials or create pictures and videos and UGC content or whatever it is, the frustration I have with just customizing one tiny little thing on these AI photo generation things, we're having to have to keep recreating the entire prompt over and over and over again. But the idea of what they're presenting is just say like remove glasses or, move elbow to the left, a couple of inches, being able to minute fine tune special things within an image. That is without writing a whole prompt. That's actually what got me most excited, because that is the biggest frustration for anybody in the creative AI space is how much work and how big those prompts can get and trying to refine all of that. There's a lot of time that goes into that. And if we can cut down that time to get the image that we really want, especially if you're creating digital clones, if you're creating B-roll, that kind of stuff, I think that makes me the most excited. And it's just a small thing, but I look at the time to that small thing and I'm like, oh, please work. Just please master that and like knock it out of the park for me.
Is
it's
that
like go ahead, Jimmy, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to quickly ask, was that announced as a standalone, or were they planning to integrate it with everything else in the suite?
Integrated, from my understanding, integration. It was part of the photos collection. So part of photos. So the whole collection is from what I understood it to be. It would be part of that. And if I remember correctly, don't quote me on this, but it was a big play in the for some reason in the business suite as well. So there might be a reason why they brought it into the business suite as a suite. But from my understanding, Google picks Google's whatever it is, but it's the minute changing was what made me like, that would be a night and day difference.
Yeah, so it uses Nano Banana under the hood.
Yeah.
Google Pics is integrated with Gemini now, and you can pick a region of the image and then just describe the changes, and it automatically makes a revision, and then you can just keep moving forward with further voice requests to make modifications to the image. It's really cool.
Yeah,
and when you combine that with the speed, it makes a big difference, right? Because Danielle, they're kind of solving for that Amazon last mile problem, right? One of the things Amazon does really well is they've solved for the last mile by putting more local centers. I mean, I have centers, and now it's not that uncommon for me. I did it yesterday, as a matter of fact, because we're in a huge drought here, and it's dumb. I have a hose in the back. I've lived in this house over 3 years, and I'm like, why haven't I just bought a hose for the front spigot? So I have to stop moving the hose from the back to the front. Funny enough, I thought yesterday wasn't supposed to rain. We ended up getting an hour rain, which we desperately needed, but that's neither here nor there. I literally was able to get a hose from Amazon in the next 4 hours yesterday, delivered to the house, right? And so they've solved for that. And I think what you're saying here, the analogy I see is, it's always been fairly easy since the dawn of like your okay AI image creators, not maybe DALL-E 2, but since they've been okay, to get that first iteration, that first pass. But then the struggle and the pain from the first answer to a finished product has been slow, painful, and a lot of times ends up with just failure, and I'm sure you with your expertise and what you do, you must see that more than not. So I definitely understand what you're saying. Like, if they've solved for this in a very natural way where you can just talk to it and it's giving you revisions, and you talk and it's giving revisions almost in real time or semi-real time, that's massive. That's a massive improvement.
Yeah. I'm
Sure.
very excited about it. I haven't tested it because yesterday, but make me
Well,
very happy.
that's probably.
Go ahead, June.
I was just going to say that's probably a good point to maybe just clarify of what we talked about, what's available right now, and who is it available to, right? Because most of the things are available to the Ultra plan, right? And Brian, you were talking about pricing on that. And then there's a few things that are being rolled out to everybody.
Yeah, so 3.5 flash is available to everybody. Whether you're using 3.5 flash or not, it might be under the hood of the thing you are using. So there's that. Omni is available as people are making new videos and stuff. You have limitations of what you can do depending on your plan, but I could show you a video that was done with Omni today. So that's available because I used it. 3.5 thinking is available, but that might be on a pro plan because I don't have it on my free Gemini account, but I do have it on my scaled account, the work account. So that's available. Then you get into things like Ask YouTube, which is something we haven't talked about. That's not out yet. That's being finalized, or it's out with beta testers, I think, at this point. That one, I think some people, content creators are concerned with because they think it's going to turn into less viewed full videos, which is a valid concern. If we're literally talking about Ask YouTube right now on here, and this is on YouTube, which it will be, it's live, but it'll also be republished on YouTube. And then in a search thing, people have questions about Ask YouTube. It's possible that it will clip right to wherever we are, 27 minutes and 15 seconds or something of this video of where we started talking about it. So that's a good thing from the consumer side. If I can get a quick 3 or 4 videos, the examples are teaching my daughter to ride a bike or something, and going from having training wheels to not training wheels. I need quick stuff or whatever for a kid. Boom, boom, boom. It brings me 4 or 5 clips. That's really, really helpful, but it seems like it's coming, right? So that's one like Ask YouTube. I think Google Docs Live, that's another one that I don't think is fully out. I might be wrong about that, but that's in line with Pix for Danielle, right? Because the idea is that you could just naturally speak and create docs. In fact, they demoed that live. I don't remember though if that is available today. And then you have future stuff like Spark. We haven't talked about the glasses, the hardware stuff yet.
Yeah.
That's a little bit farther down the line. But I will say all of it is 2026. The only one that I remember them saying differently was give us till next year for the glasses with the small heads-up display in it. They said that's coming, the AR, whatever, or the AX, that's coming.
XR.
But it's give us till next year to do that. In the meantime, here's these 4 different types of glasses with Samsung, Warby Parker, Gentle Monster, and maybe there was another Samsung in there, whatever, that was more hardware based. There's like 4 different glasses. Also available, we haven't talked about it at all. We can Anti-Gravity 2.0. That, as far as I know, is available right now.
So, Andy, you were going to bring up something. Was it anti-gravity or development?
No, I wasn't moving on. I wanted to just make a quick comment about video editing, because we were talking about image editing with Google Pix.
Right.
And I tie it back to our earlier discussion about Omni, because Omni is a physics and simulation skilled, fully multimodal from the first, pre-training, moment. It's an amazing tool to actually generate video. Now, Google's always had the VO line of video generation tools, and they kind of are subordinating that now to Omni. And so Omni really at this point is the platform on which you can do advanced media generation that's faithful to physics and is as good or better than VO ever was. So just as Nano Banana has kind of been subsumed into the Google Pix product, then also on the video side, you've got Omni behind that as an engine now, distinct from VO, but somehow all of the tools are converging to, okay, now
And
our main model can do all of that. Don't worry about having to use a separate, different product line.
And they've
that's
expanded
exactly
the
right.
whole flow, the flow offers as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah, like this, I'm in Gemini, but I'm using Omni to help make this video, right? So, but I'm in Gemini. I didn't say use the Omni model, right? It's just using it in the back end. And so all this is doing, in fact, I got this idea from Google DeepMind, who has a great, I'll put it in the chat, but it's a great article about prompting with Omni, because, there's be descriptive that we know that's going to be part of it, but there's more to it. So, I won't pull up this video. You can see really tiny. There's just a screenshot of a headshot of me. I actually used this yesterday for something else we were talking about. But let me just pull up this other one, which is a storyboard. So I had Google, Nano Banana, I had Gemini create this storyboard for me. And I said, it's put me in the story. And so I gave it the headshot. And then I said, create me a 6-panel storyboard of me going bungee jumping in New Zealand. I don't know. It was the first thing that literally came to my mind from a tall bridge. And so you can see, if you're looking at the screen right now, there's 6 panels here. And I also say, give it some descriptors as you would expect to see on a storyboard. Not that I've ever made a movie, but this is what I believe storyboards look like. And then what I said was, if you can look back here, a very short prompt, but this is the exact same one DeepMind suggested. Show me in this story. Follow the story exactly in order, starting top left, entire story in 10 seconds, cinematic. And this is the result. And it That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, you look a lot older though. You were probably just so nervous. It aged you instantly.
It aged me a bit, but it's me, but like, I don't know. It's me. Yeah. I'm very serious in before my bungee jump. I think that's what's important here, is I'm taking this very seriously. I'm damn near scowling before I jump. So I love the focus and attention I have before I jump off the bridge. I also like that this is correct in Omni, because this is what the storyboard looked like. But the storyboard, I realized, was wrong, because it's got the bridge sideways, whereas I should be jumping off the middle of the bridge, and it looks like I'm jumping off the end of the bridge, which wouldn't make any damn sense. I was like, oh, it messed it up, until I looked at the original storyboard, and that's how it is on the storyboard. So gotcha. Fair is fair. It did follow the directions on there. But I just wanted to share that really quick as just a quick example of, like, sort of like you guys are saying, everything converging together. I did not, you can see it on there. I didn't say create me an image. I didn't say create me a video using Omni. I just talked to Gemini, and Gemini figured it out. It used the right model for the job.
Right. Well, Carl's joined us. Hey, Carl, welcome. So we've been talking about Google I/O. Do you have any? Do you have anything in particular that you wanted to talk about?
But it's not related to Google I/O, because I haven't. I was doing a lot of speaking and stuff yesterday, so I just was trying in between to kind of play with some of those things, but at the time, some of it hasn't come out yet. What I did notice was, and I haven't tested this out. So Brian, I don't know if you've seen. A lot of people were using Image Gen 2 to create character sheets and storyboards. And then they would use that to create a more consistent video using a seed dance. So I'm curious how that compares to Omni, because I'm getting a lot of on my X feed, like Omni versus seed dance fight scenes. And the fight scenes are very, I don't know, they're both kind of weird, but dance seems to be more faster, while Omni is very slower. But I haven't done anything else related Outside of that, I haven't seen anything else on that.
Well, that's actually a really good point, because with any of these announcements, right, they're all about getting the information out there, telling you when you're going to have access to it. But what the real world results after people getting their hands on it, that could be wildly different.
Yeah.
So it may be a week before we get more of those side-by-side comparisons and things like that.
Yeah, because I don't know. It's deployed to pro users, obviously pro and plus and whatnot. And I think some people have gotten it, some people haven't. And I'm obviously, I use Higgsfield a lot, so I'm just waiting for them to. I don't know if it's already in there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Changed it to, I have a feeling they're gonna put it in, but I think for a month or so they're gonna say you have to pay more to use Omni. Very typical Higgsfield.
Right,
I remember C-Dance was like, oh, to use it, it's a new tier, so you have to pay for it even more. And I'm like, this makes no sense.
Well, that's part of their pricing. Their pricing scheme too, right? It's like, oh, something really big and fancy came out, so that's the new higher tier that's available.
I don't know, has anyone gotten, because I know with VO 3.1, I think I'm only allowed on the pro plan. Yeah, the pro plan, not ultra. I'm only allowed like 4 or 5 in video generations, then I'm done for the day. I don't know if if that's the case for that subscription. I'm happy that they went to $100 subscription, because that $350 a month, I was like, that's the most expensive, especially in Canadian dollars. I'm like, way.
Right. Absolutely.
We were talking about that. I don't know. I haven't seen the comparison with C-Dance. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there about which one is better. I do like the idea that Omni, at the end of the day, is built on the world model, and that's what it's being built off of, which means that Google will probably be able to iterate faster, and you'll see quicker improvements of Omni creating video like every couple of months. I would imagine. I think what you're looking at today and what you could do with Omni, like on day one, let's call it, will be drastically different than what you can do in December. And that's because if they've built the underlying architecture for the world model, at least to me, it stands to reason that they should be able to iterate it and improve on the video output faster, because they have that underlying base layer that's sort of informing physics and real world, and all that kind of stuff. So
and there's a thing to talk about also when you're comparing different of these kinds of models, is the best practices that have been developed, right? C-Dance has been out for a while. Happy Horse is another
one. I was about to talk about, has anyone used Happy Horse before? Because I was like, what is Happy Horse? And
so I think a little bit of maturity in how best to get your best results out of it, that's something that needs to be developed. Now, in the same vein is with Omni is this idea of the convergence of everything. Like you pointed out, Brian, it's like you didn't have to request Omni specifically to go make the videos or anything like that. They're all in the app. On the other side of things, there's another company that came out that's called Craisee. So Craisee. And essentially their methodology is the opposite, sort of where they're kind of like taking an approach as Higgsfield, but the way they're looking at it is, we want simultaneous production across all of the models, right? So so it's interesting to see what these various paths are for particularly in video creation and image creation, because a lot of that creative process is iteration. So if we're running into, you get X amount of generations depending on your your tier of account, that's going to, really dampen the, oh, I want to try it this way. I want to try it this way,
I
And
think
so,
yeah.
so having an offer that's like, oh, well, let me just here's my output or here's my prompt for all of the models at once, then I can pick and choose what is the best output and then continue development and continue creatively down those particular paths. So,
but
yeah.
even then, right? Because it's like if you're actually trying to create like a story,
Mhm.
like more than 15 seconds, that it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you're using. Like, I don't know if you've all noticed, like I prompt pirate like crazy for video generation and image generation, because I just how the top people create some of the stuff is like
Mhm.
very intricate, right? Like
Yeah.
they are really intricate. Even my knowledge of video and how to shoot and stuff is like they spend a lot of time, and yeah, you could use AI to do it, but it's such a intricate process on how to get certain things that it's like, you're actually describing angle by angle by angle. So it's like it'd be really cool to be able to like, and that's why I think those character sheets and those storyboards are so important, and that the models are now understanding them to be
Yeah.
able to translate. Because remember in the beginning, like it's so janky, but now it's like, okay, now I understand what you're trying to do, and it's only going to get better and better and better. I thought that was just really neat when I saw how people were using character references to start, using, and as the models get even, better, then you can start seeing your storyboards actually like they're adhering to it, which I thought is
Mhm.
to do that.
Yeah. And this is all translating existing real world techniques or processes.
Yeah.
And the models are, like you said, the models are recognizing that and improving what
Yeah.
your final output is.
No, and it's not there yet, right? Because there's so many
Right.
times that we try to get a character sheet and it'd be like, yeah, that's kind of weird, or like the voice is still weird, and sometimes the letters just don't match, and yeah, it's still not like you'll get the scenes, but it's not going to be one-shotted a lot of the time.
A throwback to an old saying, "This is the worst it'll ever be."
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
and that's the caveat, the extra to that now, Jimmy, is this is the worst it'll ever be, and it'll probably change tomorrow. Like we weren't saying that at the beginning, right? We were saying like, man, I really hope for a major model release in the next 6 months. That would be amazing. And we would talk about that on the show. And those timelines are gone. I mean, like I'm saying, like you're seeing these stuff from IO. Some of this stuff will look drastically different before the end of the year. And not to mention all the other major
it isn't just Google, right? It'll be whatever comes out to supplement and all that kind of stuff too, which is
things that shake up, like OpenClaw that just shook up things. I didn't see it coming. I didn't know that. I'm sure some people did. They were aware of that or whatever. But like OpenClaw, like shifted the gravity a little bit, and so those things are going to keep happening too. Which would be interesting.
Yeah. So before we move on to another piece of news or Google news, I did want to move to talking about all the research and development and DeepMind stuff. Andy, you're normally our deep in the weeds side of things. Do you have anything in particular you wanted to highlight?
I did watch a digest, a YouTube digest, or maybe not YouTube. It was actually hosted by Google that summarized the keynotes around the development IO, right? So this had to do with anti-gravity primarily, but I didn't see anything. I didn't have time to look at anything about DeepMind and what their contributions were to IO.
Well, let me do a quick rundown, and then if there's anything that pops out, we can definitely dive in a little deeper on that. Project Genie stood out to me because one of the big things they did with Project Genie, which if you don't know is one of their basis of a world model, it's to build 3D environments essentially. I think we highlighted something where it has interactive elements. You could walk through a space and whatnot. Well, they tied in Genie with all of their Street View data. So Google Street View, being able to be as if you were walking down the street, that perspective, that was like 280 million different Street View angles or images or whatnot, and that has all been integrated into Genie to build an even larger model and a more deeper, accurate model as well. So that was, and I'm sorry, 280 billion, not 280 million, and it covers 110 countries. So there's that's a huge amount of information that's been tied into that larger project. A couple of other ones that were mentioned was Co-Scientist. They're billing it as a multi-agent AI research partner built with Gemini to help accelerate scientific breakthroughs. Then slightly different is Gemini for Science, which is a collection of new science tools and experiments, and something called Weather Next, which is a AI model how it helped the U.S. National Hurricane Center better predict hurricanes and things like that.
That one had a huge impact in Jamaica last year. I don't think that gets enough credit for it wasn't everything, obviously, and there's other AI models, but what was it? Hurricane Melissa last year?
Yeah, Melissa. Yeah.
I mean, that Weather Next, among others, I'm not saying they're the only one, but it had a big impact on, if I remember right, like accurately predicting the track of the storm about 3 days earlier than your traditional models. And as somebody who lives in Florida, that is an amazing thing. 3 days is huge, is literally, maybe not so much for Florida, but for underdeveloped areas like parts of Jamaica, that could literally be life or death. You know, it's a great example of like AI literally saving lives, literally. You know, and the Google Gemini for Science is another great example with that, with everything Demis has going on with all the alpha projects that are going on. You know, he straight up said yesterday, we're on a path to cure all disease. It got a small applause. He also said I think we're going to look back and realize we were in the foothills of the singularity. It didn't even get an applause, but people lost their mind over Google Glasses. I was like, what's going on?
Right.
you got him wrapping up the keynote yesterday talking about the singularity and AGI, and people were like, but glasses I can wear that are going to help me shop tomorrow. Woo! I was like, I feel like your priorities are backwards. I was the most excited about what he said at the very end than I was for probably everything else that happened, because there is a guy that I trust deeply on what he says, among others, like the Andre Kaparathes, who's now with Anthropic, as we learned, and others. But when he says it, I believe it. And I just thought it was interesting yesterday that I don't know if it was fatigue in the audience. Maybe you can ask your friend Danielle, who was there. Was it just that it is over an hour at that point and people were tired? But I was like, wow, that is an underwhelming response to a very big, within 30 seconds, he said AGI, singularity, and cure all disease. And I think cancer got a golf clap when he said, solving for cancer. People were like, okay.
I think the reasoning why because I agree with you, Brian. Here's my philosophy thing on this. I think we can't conceptualize what that is. We know what glasses are, but we can't understand an environment where there's no disease. That is not something that we can actually picture. Now, if you watch Star Trek growing up, you might be able to, right? Yeah. Like you might be able to put yourself in there. If you are a Jedi, fan, you might be able to put yourself into quote future text, but we can't understand what a singularity looks like without chaos because we're so used to bad. We're so used to struggle. We're so used to like having to struggle through and work to do the things. The idea of not having to do that and actually focusing on bettering ourselves, focusing on, becoming units within our family, focus on community, focus on those things. They are a little bit idealistic for most people, and it's hard for us to wrap our brains around that concept of not having disease. And then you get onto the other side of it. Well, that's too utopia. That's not like that kind of thing. And so I think that's why there wasn't a plan, because we can't, as a society as a whole, as a human race as a whole, really understand what that looks like. And so if you can't understand what that looks like, you're going to clap for glasses. And I'm going to clap for glasses. I'm going to clap because one, right? But also, like, I'm going to clap to be able to go onto Google Streets and like figure out where I'm going, because I'm directionally challenged. I want to pre-walk wherever the fuck, can I swear on this? I'm going to pre-walk wherever the hell I'm going, right? Like, I need to know like where I'm taking my rights and left ahead of time. And that sounds like a game changer to me, right?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a solid point. That's something you can see yourself using this year.
Mm-hmm.
But curing all disease is like, where do you start with that?
Yeah.
You know, where do you start with that? I think it's a fair point.
And that's why you get more claps for cancer, because we can understand curing cancer.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I know somebody that has this cancer. Okay, I can wrap my head around that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. And even different certain types of cancer. Like my mom passed from breast cancer in 2008. You know, like that I have a more understanding of because I lived through it, right? And that's, people have their unique experiences. So anyway, interesting. If anybody missed that, I would recommend you going to like, I mean, honestly, 5 minutes. They're wrapping up the glasses, and then they moved to him coming out on stage. He'd been on the stage previously to talk about other parts. But those last 4 or 5 minutes, I was like, man, I mean, it's cool that they gave him the wrap up for the keynote, but I don't know, just struck me as odd, I guess, of what they do at DeepMind and how impressive it is with all their alpha projects. And
Love that.
So to wrap up the Google news, unless anyone has a particular one they want to highlight, I just wanted to go over some of the developer tools that are coming out. You had mentioned earlier Anti-Gravity 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
So Anti-Gravity is Google's
harness.
Yeah, it's their harness to help you be a builder in the Google ecosystem. Then Google AI Studio is now adding in native Android app creation. So that handles more of direct to mobile apps, which I think is going to be pretty big for them because that path really hasn't been touched upon. Lots of vibe coding in general, but not directly to mobile. Google AI Studio is getting a mobile app, which and a big update to that. So that seems to be the big three in terms of having a mobile app for vibe coding. And then Google Workspace is having apps built in AI Studio will have full integration with Google Workspace. So
can I add one or two more to that?
Yeah, go for it.
Synth ID, which I think was really important, was really cool to hear about that. That's their digital invisible watermarking that Google already had. So it wasn't that they were announcing that per se, but they're expanding what it can do. And crucially, just like we saw with MCPs and things like that, OpenAI, 11 Labs, and another one called Kakao, which I'm not familiar with that company or what they do, the KAKAO, but they mentioned them as well.
They're a huge Korean digital company. They do entertainment, they do development, they do everything. It's one of those giant conglomerates.
Perfect. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah.
All three of those companies have agreed to adopt Synth ID expansion. So that's a big win, I would say. You know, we've seen this before with Anthropic, like with MCP, Google with A2A, and how they play in as well. And also Anti-Gravity, don't forget, that is already baked in to your Google search. So I know we got to do I know we got to move on because you have science, but let me just share this super quick. This will take 2 seconds. That'll take 2 seconds. But if you look at the screen right now, this is a basic Google search. I use this example quite a bit, which has helped me understand what is really happening when we say people are floating in a spaceship. Make it visual as possible to help me out. Now, this is a good example of the expanding text box. That was something a lot of people harped on, is that the search bar is changing after 25 years. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. Like, that's not a big deal to me, but a lot of people had some feelings about that. But then, so what we get first is the example of it. And it's giving me a visual breakdown. So it understood visual, but you can see it gives me a follow-up here in a second where it's talking about, essentially, it's the cannonball experiment. If you shoot a cannonball at the right speed, that essentially that cannonball is always falling, because at the same pace, the earth is falling away from it. So it never finds the ground, right? That's no gravity. What movies will tell you is no gravity in space. It's the spaceship, the person, and the laptop computer they have in their hand all falling in a perpetual skydive, right? That's no gravity as we know it in movies. And I always found that fascinating. I learned about that way too late in my life. It's something I feel like I should have grasped when I was a child, and it was never taught to me as long as I remember. So we have the constant free fall, the visual analogy, the plunging elevator. Then we get our typical, like, here's some starting at 49 seconds, 59 seconds, 55 seconds. So this is that directly in YouTube, which we kind of already had. And then it says learn interactively. Do you want to visualize Newton's cannonball orbit? Try it now. And it built it for me immediately inside Google search. So now I can set my launch speed here. We can fire the cannon, and we can see at the launch speed of 6.2 kilometers per second, it crashed somewhere on Earth. If we increase that a little bit to 7.8, not only are we sort of doing orbit, but we're starting to move maybe in a ellipse around it. And if I jumped it way up and we fired the cannon, it leaves Earth's orbit altogether because it's going way too fast. So now it's not even sticking around the Earth orbit. We're going out into deep space. But just think about that from a simple Google search to description to here's videos, to here's other 20 sites on here with other stuff in Reddit, to here's a simple visual that I'm going to build for you using anti-gravity to show you how this actually works. And this was built live by anti-gravity. I think this is a great example of what you're getting out of Gemini and Google and how this is all meshing together. Because from the user experience, this is just simply a great user experience. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about it. I just followed it along. When it gave me prompts, I did it and it built it. I would say that it was still going. The spaceship was way out in Earth. I stopped it. We're okay. The spaceship has stopped. But what I was going to say is I would say that animation probably took less than 30 seconds. So not instantly, but clearly it just said building it. And then it was usable where I could move the needles and stuff. So just wanted to bring it up as something I had sort of demoed, and just to show where I think this is all going. But to me, that's a great use case of how to use search. And then 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 follow-ups to it that I might not have had with a traditional Google search. I might have just stopped and said, I get it. And this is allowing me to go deeper and deeper if I choose, which is where I think it makes total sense for them to be able to continue to show you ads along the way.
Man, anybody with ADHD, we're going to be in love. Like the
hey, what about this thing?
Yeah.
And then just go into it.
Squirrels everywhere.
Yep.
There might be a new form of doom scrolling. It's just never leaving the search. Oh, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And then that's 4 a.m. I can see it. I could probably be caught into that. But I think that really highlights what the big selling factor Google has always had with their products is they're selling the user experience of integration of all of those features. It's so easy to just stay there and live within that.
Yep.
And there may be better versions, and unless you really need it to be better, then it's probably going to solve most of your queries, requests, or needs. And I think that's their big selling point. All right, so I want to wrap up the little bit of news that's probably going to be more of a discussion. And Gareth mentioned it in chat, is the Karpathy move to Anthropic. Is it as big as people are saying? What is the super significance of it? And has anybody thought about it at all with the deluge of so much other information? So I pose that to the panel. Doesn't matter.
Well, no, it does matter, and it's a big vote of confidence from one of the leaders of OpenAI, who then went out to do Eureka Labs and be a primary educator at the frontier of AI, and now has chosen to go back to not go back, but to join Anthropic, not go back to his original birth at OpenAI, but now go over to Anthropic in order to lead their pre-training team. So this is really at the cutting edge of arguably the very best frontier models out there. Like Mythos is clearly out there. I don't think Omni, as powerful as it is going to supersede Mythos in its capabilities at the cutting edge for various applications, but it is focused on something quite different, which is multimodal integration across all of the Google system. So Andre Karpathy, incredible thought leader, really a smart guy. Now he's going to be in charge of making the already existing lead of Anthropic's frontier models even better. And so that Mythos and then the next generation are going to be guided by Andre as the leader of the team that's doing the pre-training for that.
So I only saw the original post that he made saying, "Hey, I'm joining Anthropic, and yes, I'll come back to education a little later." But did he give any more in-depth reason of what he wants to accomplish at Anthropic?
It's not on his website. No, I looked. It could have been updated since I looked. But you know what I was most I didn't know this, so it was just news to me, was he was originally, talk about all these people are connected. He was originally a student under Dr. Fei Li.
Oh,
isn't that cool?
Right.
Isn't that super cool that like how things are connected? He worked for
that highlights how shallow that particular talent pool
if you're at that level. Yeah.
Right. Because that's why there's been so much. It's almost like sports in the fact that you've got all of these high level talent and they're moving from team to team because there's only so many. Now, as the years go on, this is definitely a field that people are going to want to focus on or dive deep into. So we'll see more people in the available talent pool. But like you said, yeah, exactly. A student of Fei Li and, people coming out of the Stanford AI program and all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So winding back to the founding of OpenAI, which was 2015, he was one of the co-founders.
Yep.
And then he was there at OpenAI all the way through 2021. And something happened that hasn't apparently ever been fully explained. There was a rift between Andre and others, perhaps Sam Altman, maybe Greg Brockman, but there was a parting of the ways. And so he went out on his own, and now he's over to Anthropic to compete directly head to head with the OpenAI team.
Well, remember, he was also at Tesla, and then he was at OpenAI again. And then he was on his own, and now he's and way back when he was a student, he did internships at Google. So when you look at somebody who's been around the block and has played with all the major players, it's interesting. And I would imagine that Anthropic must have put the right thing in front of him that really, really piqued his interest for what he wants to work on. This is a guy who can pick his projects at this point. So it's really interesting to me of what Anthropic put in front of him, or did he reach out to Anthropic? Did Anthropic reach out to him? And what was that? Maybe we'll find out in time, but what was that drew him to go over and work with Anthropic? Because let's remember, he would have already worked with not only both co-founders of Anthropic back at OpenAI, but he also has worked with several other people at Anthropic who were his previous co-workers at OpenAI. So it's a really interesting, I don't know, he's had an interesting arc to this point. for sure.
Yeah, I would love to know if this was a headhunting situation or, because most of them have just been that. Like Zuckerberg and Meta have just, their method was, here's as much money and we'll promise you whatever you want. And we've seen the results of back and forth on that. But it sounds like with someone's resume that Karpathy has, and like you're saying, his arc, he can choose. There's no money or those kinds of things. I do not imagine is the driving force, and we haven't. Really
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
So am I misremembering that he is the person who coined the term vibe coding?
Oh,
yeah.
Was that him?
That was him. Yep, that was.
I forgot about that actually.
Guy. My curiosity is, because I haven't really followed too deeply, but when there are a lot of people that will move for the money, for equity, for those things, but there seems to be a generalization within the talent pool that we're looking at. Their motivation is what excites them, not the financial game, because the financial game has already been set. The game for making more money is not the game of the boomers or whatever it is, right? The make more money is not the motivation. The game is what's excite me, what can I create, what motivates me to that next level. That's the new game to play, right? And you want to work with other people that are in that space as well. And so when I look at his past, when I look at just the little bit that I don't know this person or something like that, my thinking is like, what's the end result that he's looking for? Is it what we were talking about earlier, Brian, is curing all diseases, moving things forward, tech kind of things? Like there's this futuristic kind of thought process that happens with people that are working in this space. When they come up from MIT, when they come up from Stanford, when they come up from these spaces, there's a creation portion that happens in that, which makes me very excited, to be honest. I also do need to do a shout out for the chat that's going on. If you are interested in beer and UFOs, like get on the chat. I think it's like just, if you are not following the chat of these daily AI shows, you definitely need to be on the chat. We're on, I think it's mostly YouTube. Is that what I'm seeing? I just want to do a little shout out of what's going on over there.
Well, speaking to that, beautiful, Danielle, I wanted to say that from my perspective, that focus on what really interests you intellectually and what the team is about, that transition to that as the focus of your motivation happens when you already have billions of dollars. Literally billions of dollars. Like Andre Karpathy is not, he's not a multimillionaire. He's a beyond billionaire already. So
right.
Yeah.
So just to highlight, chat, Beth did put in a question about, will we see Ilya move over to Anthropic? Have we heard much from SSI in a while?
No.
I haven't heard much. So
I need his next opus, man. I'm like jonesing for it. I need that. I need that sweet 20-page opus from Ilya, because I thoroughly enjoyed his last one about that. But yeah, there's good call out on that. Like I haven't heard. Oh, you know what? You're saying Ilya. I'm thinking about Leo.
Oh, Aschenbrenner.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
In my mind, I'm thinking about Leo.
I was just thinking about that
you're
too.
Saying Ilya.
I was just thinking about that because 2027 is coming up real quick, right?
Yeah.
So it's time for another. Well, how quick was it? I mean,
where are we?
We talked about the hockey sticks and particularly hardware. He called for the memory thing and all that stuff. So it'll be interesting.
So Ilya left OpenAI to found Safe Superintelligence. So his motivation, Danielle, is to create alignment and safety as we achieve superintelligence, and that you have to admire. There are people out there who have who have our backs on that.
His believe it or not, situational awareness. Sorry, I had to go look this up. Situational awareness was published in 2024, which kind of blows my mind that's I don't know if it's 2 years ago, whatever. And I guess he's still dealing with his thing right now is hedge fund management. he manages, or he's part of managing with his partners, I guess. Part of this is from Situational Awareness LP. There manages over 1.5 billion as of 2025. This is Wikipedia. I was just curious what was going on with him. I don't want to derail the show, but I was just curious because like we haven't really heard from him, but it sounds like he's doing fine, maybe in investments.
Well, I do like the idea of some of the starters of this race, so to speak, banding together into their their corners, I guess, if you will, to really find the I don't want to say conflict, but having at least two different groups that have opposing philosophies but within the same field can potentially net you some great results just from the back and forth and learning from each other. So we'll see what really comes out of it. But I'm hoping to hear more from SSI, and then Mira with her thinking machines. I believe that's the company.
Can I add one more weave here?
Yeah.
This is just the last thing I read. We're talking about Leo still. As of 2025, Aschenbrenner is engaged to Avital Balwit. Wait for it. The chief of staff to the CEO of Anthropic. So there's your connectors right there, folks.
Wow.
So it's gone beyond sports, and now it's like Celebrity Island.
That's right.
Kind of thing.
That's right. All roads point back to Anthropic right now.
Right.
Even through the chief of staff to everybody at the CEO and stuff like that. So anyway, I just happened to read that. I wanted to bring that in real quick.
That was great. Okay. So I'm going to start talking about some AI and science, and unless anybody really needs to talk about something, because it's going to be about 5 minutes of me just going through it.
Well, then I'm politely going to bow out because I would love to hear it, but I'll watch it on the replay so I can go do some other work. But go for it.
Totally. Yeah, we're way past the 1 hour mark.
I'll decide whether I'm sticking around depending on what the AI and science topic is.
Oh, okay. All right. I hope I got a good one for y'all. All right, here we go. So AI and science. Today, we're going to talk about how Columbia and MIT built the first cell with ribosomes running on 19 amino acids.
What?
Okay. Yeah. Don't stay with me just for another minute.
I never even took biology in high school or college, to my knowledge. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to follow this.
All right.
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm in like Flynn.
Let's do this. So every living thing on Earth, every bacterium, plant, fungus, animal, every one of us builds its proteins out of the same set of 20 amino acids. A handful of microbes have stretched that to 21 or 22 on rare occasions. But nothing in the 4 billion year history of life has ever been found running on fewer than 20. The reason that number is so universal is a question biologists have been chewing on for decades. Is the genetic alphabet a chemical necessity, or is it a frozen accident that got locked in early and never moved? Well, earlier this month, a team at Columbia University and MIT published in Science Journal the closest thing to an answer anyone has produced. They used generative AI to redesign the most complex molecular machine in a living cell and got a bacterium's ribosome to run on 19. So, where does AI sit in biology right now? So to understand why this is a milestone, it helps to see the arc AI has been on inside biology. 5 years ago, DeepMind's AlphaFold cracked protein structure prediction. Given a sequence of amino acids, predict the three-dimensional shape. That was the reading problem. The next wave, protein language models like ESM2, general tools like protein MPNN, solve the designing problem. Train a model on every protein sequence on Earth and it learns the grammar well enough to write new proteins that fold, function, and sometimes outperform their natural counterparts. Now, last October, a Barcelona based team led by the Center for Genomic Regulation and Integra Therapeutics published in Nature Biotechnology showing an AI design transposase, basically a gene editing enzyme that worked better than the ones nature produced. So, what the Columbia MIT team just did pushes the frontier one step further. They didn't redesign one protein, they redesigned an entire system, and they redesigned it to use a chemistry no living thing has ever used before. So, what are our takeaways here? Number one, AI in biology has moved from reading sequences like AlphaFold to designing individual proteins like protein MPNN and ESM tool based tools. And second, the Columbia MIT work is the first credible attempt to redesign an entire molecular machine to run on a non canonical amino acid alphabet. So, what just happened? The team is led by Harris Wang and a Columbia University Irving Medical Center and Sergei Ovchemnikov at MIT. They picked their target carefully, a isoleucine, one of the 20 canonical amino acids and the one most often naturally substituted by structurally similar amino acids like valine or leucine in other organisms. If any of the 20 amino acids was going to be dispensable, isoleucine looked like it was going to be the best candidate. Then they aimed at the hardest possible place to test that, the ribosome, the molecular factory that builds every protein the cell produces. As Wang told Science's news team, eliminating an amino acid entirely from this machine is almost the hardest thing you could think about because it's the biggest, most complicated protein complex. Of the ribosome structural proteins, 50 contain isoleucine. So native substitutions didn't work. Swapping each isoleucine for the closest chemical neighbor broke most of those proteins. So the team turned to protein language models, ESM2 and MSA transformer, combined with a structure-based generative model. The AI didn't just suggest replacement amino acid, it proposed compensating mutations elsewhere in each protein to keep the structure stable. As Ovchemnikov put it to Chemistry World, protein language models encode all that history inside them. So the deep evolutionary record which mutations balance each other mutation. For one ribosomal protein called RPSJ, the model removed two isoleucines and introduced 8 new unrelated mutations to compensate for it, including reshaping an alpha helix. A human protein engineer wouldn't have proposed those 8 changes. They aren't obvious from any rule book. They came from the model's read of the patterns inside biology. The team purged all 382 isoleucine residues from ribosomal proteins, validated each redesigned protein individually, and successfully combined 21 of them at the native ribosomal locus. The resulting strain, called EC19, holds at or above 90% of wild-type E. coli fitness and stayed genetically stapled for 450 generations of laboratory passage. Whole genome sequencing detected no revisions back to isoleucine. So what are the takeaways here? 1, native isoleucine for valine swamps broke the ribosome. AI proposed designs with compensating mutations worked. And also, EC19 carries 21 isoleucine-free ribosomal proteins and holds greater than 90% wild-type fitness and stayed stable across 450 generations. So what does this really mean for the field? 2 things follow from EC19 immediately. The first is technical. Every time you remove an amino acid entirely, you free up the DNA codons that was used to encode it. Those codons become open real estate. They can be reassigned to encode non-natural amino acids, chemistries that don't exist anywhere in biology. That's a route to therapeutic proteins with longer half-lives, enzymes with novel catalytic activities, and a class of recoded organisms that are resistant to viral infection. Earlier work out of the Medical Research Council's Cambridge lab, the MRC-LMB, showed that recoded E. coli can't be hijacked by viruses because the viruses can't read the alphabet the cell isn't using. So that's not a small industrial detail. Viral contamination is a persistent, expensive problem in biomanufacturing of insulin, vaccines, and antibody therapies. Now, the second is a signal about where the field is going. Tom Ellis, a professor of synthetic genome engineering at Imperial College London, who wasn't involved in this work, told Scientific American, in the last 7 years, the AI-enabled modeling of proteins and mutations in proteins has come on leaps and bounds. EC19 is what that compounding looks like when it reaches the level of redesigning whole biological systems. So what are the takeaways here? 1, removing an amino acid frees its codons for non-natural chemistries, new drug therapeutics, viral-resistant production strains, and novel enzymes. And second, the Columbia MIT work is a benchmark for what generative AI plus synthetic biology can do together at system scale. And the field expects more. So what are the honest caveats, and what can we see next? EC19 is a major step, but it isn't yet a 19 amino acid organism. Only the ribosome is isoleucine free. The rest of the E. coli genome still carries more than 81,000 isoleucine residues across thousands of other proteins. Getting all the way to a free-living 19 amino acid cell will require cheaper, faster DNA synthesis and more capable AI models, including genomic language models trained on whole genomes, not just individual proteins. The team's also clear-eyed about what they think the work is for. The underlying question that we seek to ask when told Scientific American is what early life looks like. Researchers think that every living thing on Earth descends from a single ancestral organism, LUCA, the last universal common ancestor that lived around 4 billion years ago. But pre-LUCA life may have been simpler with a smaller alphabet. EC19 is the first hard experimental probe on whether life can in fact run on less than 20 amino acids. And there's an AI side observation worth ending on here. The model didn't just substitute amino acids, it proposed structural choices its designers didn't anticipate. Wang's line here is, maybe these machine learning systems know aspects of biology we can verify experimentally, but don't understand. If that's true, then every system this approach gets pointed at next is going to teach us something about our own science we hadn't articulated yet. So what are our final takeaways? EC19 is the ribosome, not the whole cell. There's 81,000 isoleucines remain elsewhere. And finally, the team plans to expand the approach genome-wide with more capable models as the next bottleneck. And the AI is uncovering biology that humans haven't yet articulated. So big moves in the biology or the biotechnology realm. Now, for most people, what does this really mean? Nothing right now. What it does mean, though, is it helps herald or create a path for more virus resistance and possibly better vaccines and other therapeutics. And that's also that's going to be part of what Demis was talking about when saying we're curing cancer, and we're curing every disease. So that is your AI and science for today.
Thank you. That really also opens my mind to this idea of reverse engineering what the earliest forms of life were, and proving by reduction, from the complex biology that we see and observe on Earth today. How can we restore by reduction, like elimination, back to something that's primordially simple in life?
Mhm.
And I'm not sure what the practical applications or import of that are, but it's a very interesting angle of science.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, first, my cat's name was Luca. So when you said that, my cat woke up and I was meowing at my feet. So we have that going on. So I'm going to have to peace out pretty quick. Two, but it goes back to curing all diseases. Like, also, can we get rid of the common cold? Like, just for 56, just get rid of the common cold. Like, please, whatever. Like, you got to shove AI into my body. Yeah, let's go. Right. But I think about like how we deal with vaccines right now and how we process vaccines. This is actually, I think, a really cool leap forward, to be honest with you, because if you can streamline this and then make it more cost effective, as you said, and start going to, I mean, like you said, there's a huge growth, like it's just the first tiny bit, but it's the first bit to move forward. And as we are leapfrogging in AI, could we actually leapfrog in biotech as well? Can we leapfrog in dealing with some of this stuff, right?
I think that was a great highlight for the AI side of the story, is that it introduced and proposed new combinations and these new mutations to balance out what the previous kinds of tests were running into, the problems they were running into. And this is part of how AI and science is moving from simply the mundane part of things, but where it's taking care of the mundane part of science, is moving to, here's new science, here are new ideas, right? And I think that's relatively new in how AI is applied to whatever field that we have.
Yeah, very exciting.
Okay, well, as we wrap up here, was there anything else anyone wanted to cover?
I'd just like to note that this is absolutely the longest show we've ever done.
Yeah, because technically, Gareth's Q&A was a separate
show.
piece,
that was
right?
supposed to be a separate show, yeah. So
I
this
got
is
you,
the
Gareth. We're on.
most minutes we've consumed in continuity from the beginning of the Daily AI show.
Right. Okay, well, on that note, let's wrap up. Thank you, everybody in chat, for joining us. It's always great to see you there. Thank you, everyone who has contributed to this entire endeavor. And thank you for everyone who's watching just a little bit later. If you do want to continue the conversation, please join us in our Slack community at dailyaishowcommunity.com. And remember, click the things that make the dings, and to keep your minds and your hearts open. Aloha.